possibly loss of suburban families, right? The men and women in the suburbs, Philly suburbs, Atlanta suburbs. I think that goes to one thing. And I think it was the decision on COVID to go for opening the economy versus public empathy. And I think a young family with a young child who was back to school wanted to see an empathetic president and an empathetic Republican Party. And I think that, and I said this multiple times, and he chose a different path. And I don't think anything's wrong with this. I love him. But like, we had a difference on this. I thought we should have public empathy. I think people were scared. I walked around this people and watched people walk around me. Not like 2 years ago, and they just don't walk next because I'm Brad Parscale, but walk around me because I got a mask on now, and they just don't want to get COVID. I could see how waitresses stand a little farther from the table. People were scared. And I think if he would have been publicly empathetic, he would have won by a landslide then. I think he could have leaned into it instead of run away from it.
So it sounds like you think that was the biggest error, empathy over COVID.
Really? The biggest error. I think the biggest error was Brad Parscale. Literally the biggest error. But we'll get into that in just a moment. That was the president's former campaign director, Brad Parscale, speaking to Fox News yesterday. It's Wednesday, December the 2nd, the year of our Lord 2020, broadcasting live from Capitol Hill, episodes 554, 555. Of War Room Pandemic on the John Fredericks Radio Network, on Real America's Voice, G News, GTV, 21 million? Over 21 million downloads on the podcast. And to the audience who's watching going, oh my goodness, what is Raheem doing in that chair today? So Stephen K. Bannon is on special assignment. We'll bring you more about that as the hours pass. Don't worry, he'll be back. And don't worry, I've been in this chair before. I know we have a much larger audience than probably the last time I sat in this chair. And of course, I've got my very competent wingmen with me here. Greg Mans, Jack Maxey in the War Room. We have Phill Kline joining us as a guest. I think we have Phill from the Amistad Project, Thomas More Society, these just incredible investigators and litigators who have been drilling down into the depths of the fraud, the steal, what took place at this election, what Brad Parscale never managed to figure out was going to happen. Even after 1 million people befuddled him on TikTok with the Tulsa rally, Brad Parscale couldn't see it coming. Well, some people did see it coming. Brad, you're going to be a theme of the show today. So buckle up. Embrace the suck.
You know, I want to make a comment about what he said because it's so clear that Brad Parscale was gaslighted in the same way that the whole country was gaslighted. For example, he talks about parents with little children afraid to send them back to school. We now know even from Fauci, because even Fauci apparently can learn as we go along, that there is zero danger for children in schools. We've had no problems whatsoever. We've had 3 hospitalizations in all of the college students this year who've gone back to school. We've had none in kids in elementary school. So Brad Parscale, you're just a fearful guy, and it's pretty clear because of recent events that empathy is something that you crave. Here you go. Here's a little pat on the back. Hope everything is well. Hope you dry out. Hope you figure out a new path to the future. But I don't really want to hear you talking about the danger of the coronavirus at this point, Brad, because if you had a little bit more backbone, maybe we wouldn't be in the same problem that we are today.
Yeah, no, I think, Jack, you're right, and I think there's a lot to be said about the way... look, it's one thing for Brad to have mismanaged the campaign. That's, mistakes happen, and he made a lot of them. The big Ferrari-sized mistakes in his garage, and the big private jet mistakes. That's okay, that happens. Grift is grift. But we'll talk more about the detail of why we're in the situation that we're in and why Brad Parscale isn't on the front lines fighting the steal right now. He's not in this room. He's not in Georgia. He's not in Michigan. He's not on stage with Phill Kline and the Amistad guys and the incredible whistleblowers who went up there risking their jobs, their futures, their securities to tell the truth of what happened. No. He's in a comfy chair on boo-hooing to the camera. Well, boo-hoo. Boo-hoo.
As a data expert, let's say that again, as a data expert, Brad, you're conspicuously absent from the conversation going on right now. So your expertise ain't much in my book.
want to get to our guest now, Phill Kline of the Amistad Project. Phill, you had an incredible day yesterday. We've enjoyed listening to you, working with you. I just thought it was incredible listening to the hour long. Even though you cut into my show, Phill, yesterday after, that's okay. That's okay. I was very, very comfortable with it. We just thought it was incredible. We had to air the whole thing here on Real America's Voice in full. We're very grateful. We had Carrie Sheffield down there in the room. So, Phill, let's start at the top. For the people who didn't manage to see it, I know yesterday you let rip over the course of an hour. Can you summarize it over the course of 2 minutes for us to begin with?
Yeah, we're starting to be able to prove the whole flow of fraudulent ballots into the system. We've talked before, Raheem, you and I, about the Zuckerberg money, which helped fund this, that dictated how elections are going to be run, that included the implementation of these drop boxes without any chain of custody for those ballots, allowing easily additional ballots to flow into that delivery system to these consolidated election centers that were receiving hundreds of thousands of ballots at one time with Republicans kicked out of the room. And what we presented yesterday is a truck driver who travels routinely from Bethpage, New York into Pennsylvania, and suddenly on October 21st, his truck was loaded with completed ballots with the return addresses filled out, stacked in these boxes, ready to be counted from New York to Pennsylvania. Now, perhaps 200,000 Pennsylvanians were taking a vacation in New York at the time and decided to mail those ballots on the same day back. But this processing facility doesn't even intake mail. They're not supposed to be there. And we have corroboration that this has happened multiple times. He gets into Pennsylvania and his trailer is stolen. All of the ballots and everything on his trailer disappear overnight into the wind. Then we had another whistleblower sitting in Delaware County the morning of November 4th, and guess what comes through the door? All of this ballots that have been cast that are stacked the same way in the same type of containers. That is evidence of fraud, which demands answers and additional questions to be answered, and a full-scale investigation. So that's just part of it. We also had an individual who was a subcontractor for the Postal Service who was told by two separate people on two occasions the post office was rounding up over 100,000 ballots to backdate them, to insert into the election stream.
Yeah, yeah. Phill, you've got this evidence. You put it out there. It was a good production yesterday. You had the media in the room. I believe you've got a lot of coverage. We had a ton of traffic to it over at the National Pulse over yesterday as well. Put the whole video up so people can see the write-ups. So this is out there. These people are out there. They're going to continue doing the media circuit, trying to shed light on all of this. But the question I think that the audience has here is, where does that go? Because you got AG Barr standing up there saying, oh, well, we don't think we found enough to overturn the election. Now, I will give this to Attorney General Barr. I don't think he said what the media is saying he said. He didn't say that there's no fraud and we got to toss this thing out. He said we haven't yet found enough to overturn the election. So what do you say? How do you thread that needle?
I think it's an irrelevant question. The question is, have we found enough to investigate? Absolutely. So let's get active in our investigations. I would also add this. That's the wrong burden as it relates to those who have the responsibility of certifying the election, the state certifiers as well as the state legislatures. And the burden is this. Do you have faith that the election was conducted lawfully and that the result you can have faith in? And anybody who steps back says no. That's the burden. And if they believe that they can't have faith that the election was run lawfully, and we have admitted lawlessness, and that they can't have faith that the ballots reflect the will of the people. I'm not saying how the election would turn out, but we have over 200,000 ballots in question in Georgia, experts say. We have over 500,000 ballots in question in Michigan, over 100,000 ballots in question in Pennsylvania. You can't have faith in this election. You should not certify.
So what do you do about the certification that has already happened, Phill?
Well, the way the process works is it's not officially certified until the electors vote. And the legislatures still have time to determine who those electors are. So there is a need for these legislators to recognize what their responsibility is under the Constitution of the United States and their own state laws. And that's for them to sign on the line that this election was done lawfully, properly, and that the result is accurate. I don't believe anybody in good conscience can do that.
So Phil, and you know, I should probably stop saying Phil. Attorney General, your former Attorney General of Kansas, Attorney General.
No, Phil's fine.
We've talked so much now.
I get called a lot, Raheem.
I heard even yesterday during your press conference you were called a lot. Okay, fine, Phil. I'll take your word for it. Phil, what does the audience? Okay, we have a massive audience watching live right now. Millions upon millions of people downloading this. One of the top shows in the entire country. You go to the Apple Podcast, you can see a top 5. So what is the audience? They're an activist audience. They want to do things. They want to take actions that will help your point get across and help those state legislatures deliver on what you just laid out. So how do they do that?
Well, I think a couple of things. Please retweet and share our news conference and our tweets on this. Go to got-freedom.com, got-freedom.com. We covered your support in that regard. Share that information and start calling your legislator. Start calling them, writing them, demanding that they do the right thing.
I think that's the right thing, guys. If you jump in here, if you have anything, I just want I'm just channeling Steve today, right? One of his catchphrases, "Jump in, guys." But I've got a whole lot more to say. Go ahead, Jack.
No, Phil. I was just over these last weeks. We hear this refrain over and over again from the deplorables and from people who are thoughtful. Each one of these public officials has taken an oath to defend the Constitution. At what point do we think we start to hold these people to account for that oath? Because it seems to me, with everything that you've said, Phil, they cannot vote to certify this and keep that oath.
Well, I think many of them, specifically, for example, the Attorney General of Michigan, has violated that oath when she threatened legislators who oppose certification with criminal investigation. That is one of the most offensive statements to the Constitution, to our ability to think and articulate and act in a free society. I believe impeachment proceedings should begin against her to understand that a statewide law enforcement official would threaten legislators for their decision with criminal prosecution. I've never seen that in America before. I can't even believe that it was allowed to not be criticized in a widespread fashion by every news outlet in this country. It is stunning to me that people can be a part of the mob and threaten those they disagree with criminal prosecution. Yeah. Stunning. Now, there are a few liberal law professors who said it's
Phil, we're up against the break here. Can we keep you over the break? Can we hold you over the break just to conclude on this point?
Yeah, right. I believe I can I, Luis?
All right, great. We've got a 2-minute break. We'll come back. We'll bring Phil back if we can. I want to make sure that everybody out there realizes this is not a small day. This is a big day. Look at the New York Times right now. Look at Thomas Friedman's interview with Biden that went up yesterday. Look at Ted Cruz's intervention last night. The cruise missile will be back. More war and pandemic in just a moment.
They asked me if I could stay with them.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Why is the limey running the show today, says somebody in the live chat. Stephen K. Bannon's on assignment today. You got Greg Manns, Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam here in studio. Phill, Kline, Amistad Project, Thomas More Society joining us down the line. John Fredericks also joining us down the line. We're just going to wrap with Phill, Kline real quick. Jack, just go back to what you were talking about before and let Phill conclude his point.
Well, I was talking about this idea of people taking an oath to the Constitution, and that really is an oath that requires that you examine your own conscience. Similarly, in the military, the idea of an unconstitutional order, they don't define what that is. You internally, as an officer, have to define what that is. And in this case, I'm hoping that these elected officials have the core strength to do what is right here. Phill?
Phill.
Yeah, I would agree. And really, the burden has been misstated by the media. It's whether you believe that this election was run in a lawful manner and that you can have faith in the results based on the way it was managed. And the answer is no. We've got certification experts that say that this election would not be certified. You've got break of the chain of custody of ballots. You've got officials refusing to answer questions. You've got admitted lawful violations of the law. And then we have all of the experts on the back end and eyewitnesses saying, look at the result. Hundreds of thousands of ballots in question, completed ballots traveling across state lines. No, you can't have faith in this election. They should not certify.
Phill Kline, former Attorney General, Kansas, Thomas More Society, got-freedom or got-freedom.com. Make sure you're all going there, supporting Phil's work, supporting. We're going to be talking to one of Phil's whistleblowers later on, 3 p.m. at the National Pulse show. Phill, thank you for everything you're doing.
God bless.
I want to bring John Fredericks in now. John Fredericks, the host, owner, impresario of the John Fredericks Radio Network down in Georgia today. And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but it does not appear that any patriots are letting their foot off the pedal. It's picking up in pace, in importance, and the events that are going to take place today and tomorrow. Catch us up.
It's a grassroots effort. Certainly no help from any of the elected leaders in Georgia. You know, I'm on a 12-city and 12-day tour, Raheem, and when you do this, you get to talk to real voters in real-life situations. My telephone is lighting up like a pinball machine at a penny arcade. People in Georgia are so pissed at what has gone on here and the lack of leadership from their elected officials. I call them the three blind mice. Governor Brian Kemp hiding in his basement. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who sold every legitimate voter out in Georgia by making the deal with the devil with Stacey Abrams, and then trying to wipe the machines, the Dominion machines, clean, using taxpayers' money to defend the Dominion software proprietary claims against a forensic sweep to see if the vote was honest. Then you've got what I call Cosmo Man, which is Mr. $5,000 suit, Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, that jogs over to CNN to get on TV with his $10,000 Rolex watch, perfectly groomed. I mean, these are the leaders that refuse to stand up for the people. So there's an outrage here in Georgia. It's putting these two Senate seats at risk. Caller after caller is calling up, excoriating the local state senators and representatives that we have on for not doing anything. And basically, Raheem, here's what they're saying. If you don't fix this, if you don't fight for Trump, if you don't fight for my vote, we don't really care about your runoff on January 5th. This has been a consistent theme I've heard for 3 weeks. That's why I've taken my show on the road. And it's a scary situation. People are really upset. Now, here's what's going on. Today, there's a press conference we're going to be covering at 2 p.m. in Alpharetta, Georgia. Kraken, Sidney Powell, and Lynn Wood having a joint press conference. And of course, this afternoon is when Lynn Wood has the hearing. So we're going to find out what happened with that in the 11th. That's at 2 p.m. today. Tomorrow, they have a Senate hearing in a subcommittee. But here's what had to happen. They couldn't get leadership to call the hearing. They couldn't get the Judiciary Chairman to do it. So a group of 7 rogue senators, Republicans led by Brandon Beach, Steve Gooch, and others, went around leadership and have a subcommittee hearing, subcommittee on government operations. I mean, this is the lengths that they had to go in order to just get a hearing on the fraud here in Georgia, we understand that Mayor Giuliani will be at that hearing tomorrow at noon. So, but the grassroots in Georgia, I've never seen, Raheem, I've never seen in my lifetime the level of anger, and anger is the only way that I could put it. I wouldn't even call it frustration, Raheem. It's just people are pissed because they don't feel that their leaders are standing up and fighting for them, fighting for Trump, fighting for legality. I mean, I started today at 6:07 with a call from a lady with Valdosta. I mean, I just got on the air and she's like, why should I vote on January 5th when my people in Valdosta can't even tell me, they can't even prove to me that my vote on November 3rd counted. They can't even give me a document. I don't think it was counted. I think it was stolen. So why should I come out on January 5th? The stakes here are really high. People are very, very upset, Raheem.
John, the point here and the point that the president even makes is that this is beyond him. This is bigger than him. This is about the future of the republic. And it does appear to me that a lot of Georgians understand that. I mean, far better than these elected Republicans seem to understand that. Is they're not even concerned that, hey, okay, look, this is one election. They still won election. And then we have to get our stuff together and make sure that we don't hire people like Brad Pascal in the future to spend our donations on private jets and so forth. But the point here is that they understand that if you lose this, you lose everything. If you lose this, if you don't fight this, if you don't take this on and stare it down and make sure that there is never another American election where you have a mass mail-in ballot fraud system designed to steal an election away from a president who won the majority of the swing counties, the bellwether county, president who increased his vote share with minorities to a point where the Republican Party has never even seen before, a president who was clearly on a massive and major upswing on the run-up to the election against probably one of the worst and least qualified candidates and teams and one of the most spurious and dodgy potential cabinets, CCP-linked cabinets of human history. They understand, John, do they not? The ordinary Georgians understand that, hey, you let this one slip, you don't stare this down. If you behave like some of these people who are in Republican circles are behaving, you're never going to get this back.
I think their view right now, Raheem, is that what's going to stop the same thing from happening on January 5th that happened on November 3rd? Because the Republicans are really doing nothing to address that. Zero. And their leadership is absolutely pathetic. Kemp, Duncan, the lieutenant governor, Raffensperger, I mean, it's embarrassing. It's pathetic. So here's what's happened. Stacey Abrams, who has run rings around Raffensperger, they just mailed out another 950,000 absentee ballots. I had callers coming to my show today live. I'm sorry. Coming to my show today live, showing me documents they got in the mail, Raheem, for parents that are dead, friends that moved away. They actually came to Cartersville, where I am today. 3 of them did, with evidence, just showing to me, these are the ballots that are coming out. There's another 300 boxes to be harvested. So the question is, everybody understands how high the stakes are, but the question is, what exactly are Republican leaders in Georgia doing to stop the same thing on January 5th that happened on November 3rd? The answer is, I don't see evidence of anything. Stacey Abrams just mailed out another 950,000 absentee ballots. They know exactly where those ballots go. They know exactly who they have to harvest. They've got the resources to go get them in, get them mailed back in. Signatures don't matter. Nothing matters. It's open season. So people are like, okay, you're doing zero to fix this. Why should I go participate when they're going to steal it again? Look, Loeffler and Perdue are going to go into January 5th down by 500,000 votes. They got to make that up on game day, very tough to do. And the question again is, who's counting the ballots? Same Dominion machines. Nothing is changing to have them steal it again. That's what the frustration is. And it's really frustrating.
John,
It's
we're up,
just mind-boggling.
John, we're up against the break here, but I know Jack has a few comments and questions for you as well. Can you stay over the next segment with us?
For Jack and you, of course.
Well, not for me, actually.
Thank you, brother.
All right, John, we'll keep you over. Stick around. John Fredericks Radio Network down there in Georgia, bringing us the latest and obviously all the frustrations he's hearing on the ground as well. It is an important question. How do you lend the legitimacy of your participation in a vote that you know is rigged? And I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying you shouldn't participate. I'm not saying you shouldn't try your uttermost to stop the steal 2.0. But these are important questions, and they're important questions specifically. People are wondering, what the heck did they elect these Republicans for in the first place if they're not going to fight this thing? We'll be back. John Fredericks, Jack Maxey, Greg Mans, Raheem Kassam, War and Pandemic returns.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Pandemic. I want to play clip 3 in this segment as well. I want to see if we can load that up with Real America's Voice. By the way, the Real America's Voice team just working overtime at the moment, doing such an amazing job. Dr. Gina Loudon launched her show yesterday, Prime Time with Gina Loudon. Make sure you guys are checking it out on the Real America's Voice schedule as well. It's in the evenings here on this network. I want to go back to John Fredericks on the John Fredericks Radio Network as well. Just another one of the fantastic new methods and modes of communication. I know that the national reviews and all these pseudo-conservative outlets have just let you down for so long. You have patriots out there building new platforms. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later as it regards the National Pulse and beyond. I want to throw it over to Jack Maxey now here in the War Room, who I know has comments, questions for you, Mr. Fredericks.
John, one of the things that I'm concerned of, obviously we've got this election on the 5th of January, and it looks like the enthusiasm to participate is cratering. It doesn't look like there's any chance that election is going to be delayed. It doesn't look like they're going to change the methodology. But what I'm worried about is that in an act of spite, our voters bail control of the Senate. And to me, that is a very critical thing. I mean, we are dealing with the potential of Marxist leadership across the board in the United States should we lose that United States Senate. So I would make a plea to the people of Georgia to once again pick up, dust off, and show up on the 5th of January like you've never shown up before. Let these people show that they can cheat once, but they're not going to cheat twice. And that we're going to roll over them like a tidal wave, give them a taste of what's coming in 2022 and every 2 years thereafter. I'm also, John, reminded by the old epigram, treason doth never prosper. Reason why? If it did prosper, none dare call it treason. And I think that we are watching this occur across the board. We are watching people turn their backs on sacred oaths and turn their backs on the Constitution that governs us all. But again, John, I would make a plea to the people of Georgia not to sit this one out. This is one they got to show up for. Your thoughts?
Well, you can make all the pleas you want. Action, action, action. So today, the last 2 days, I've got state senators and representatives fighting with their constituents over the phone. On my radio show, fighting with them, basically saying the same thing that you're saying. What they should be doing is listening to them. The key question is, what needs to happen? What do you need to do between now and January 5th for everybody to show up, for you to get the enthusiasm back? Because, Jack, you nailed it. The enthusiasm of Georgia Republican voters is cratering by the minute. And the more they see Brian Kemp hiding in the basement, the more they see Cosmo Man, Jeff Duncan, with his $8,000 Armani suit running the CNN, the more they see Raffensperger spending Georgia taxpayer money defending Dominion software company over the rights of their voters, they're just not going to show up. So the answer is you got to do something. Have the hearing, demand that Raffensperger resign. They've already done that. Have a recall petition. Have leaders do something. Have Kemp do something. If you don't do that, these 2 seats are at major risk because they have an operation. They figure this out. Mail out ballots, flood the zone, get them back in these drop boxes, harvest them, bring them into Fulton and DeKalb County at 3 a.m. Here's what's going to happen right now if you do nothing. You're going to go to bed thinking, oh, thank God these 2 senators won. We still have a country. You're going to wake up and they're going to be behind big. It's going to be the same thing. And that's what Georgia voters are telling these leaders. You're not doing crap to stop the steal, and it's going to happen again. That's what they have to do. They've got a few weeks to do that. That's why having the hearing on Thursday is a big deal. Anything they do. That's why they're demanding, a group of state senators has demanded a special session. Doesn't matter what the law is. And we get these senators on our show reading Georgia law about it's got to go through a judge, and even if we have it, we can't change it. They don't care about that. They want action. They want press conferences. They want to see their leaders fighting. And what they're calling in my show and saying, you fight for us, and then we'll fight for you on January 5th. Otherwise, take a hike. Now, you can jawbone that and say it doesn't make any sense, or you can do what I do, which is you got to respond to your voters. And the voters are saying action, action, action. And then they'll come out. 2
ways that I think we might be able to encourage some of that spirit. Why don't we combine the election? I know it's too late to get them on the ballot for a recall, but why don't we know that outside of every single polling place, there's a patriotic Republican taking down signatures to recall these guys in the following weeks? It only requires 15% of the electorate. That'll motivate people to show up because they can put their signature down to take down these quislings and traitors. And then the other thing that I would do is I would make pleas to all the county sheriffs of Georgia, because they are the last guardian of our constitutional rights. And I would get the sheriffs to put their people out at every single polling place. They have the right to police their areas, and they should be there.
Jack, that you just gave 2 concrete, actionable solutions that would make a difference. I need you to get in your car, head down 95 South, get off when you hit Georgia, come and do my radio show with me, because you just nailed it. In 3 minutes, you basically gave 2 things that would make a difference. Outside of every polling place, you have a petition there where I could go and I could vote for Loeffler, and I can vote for Perdue, and I can vote to recall Kemp, all 3 of them. I would have it for all 3. Kemp, Duncan, Raffensperger, all 3. That's how you get out the vote. Brilliant.
Yeah, turn your anger into action.
John, I know
exactly.
John, I know we're going to let you go in just a second. I want to get your response to this. Can we play clip 3? I want to make sure we get John Fredericks' response to this. Let's roll it.
Mr. President, it looks like you likely lost the state of Georgia. We're investigating. There's always a possibility. I get it. And you have the rights to go through the courts. What you don't have the ability to do, and you need to step up and say this, is stop inspiring people to commit potential acts of violence. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get shot. Someone's going to get killed. And it's not right. It's not right.
Yeah, plenty of people have been hurt, shot, and killed defending their nation, defending their republics, defending their principles. I remember a time when American legislators actually placed the security, safety, prosperity, future of their nation above their private, personal safety concerns. I remember, it seems like a very long time ago now. John, who's that pansy?
That's Gabe Sterling, part of the Election Commission. He's a Republican. He was a city councilman in Sandy Springs. Never Trumper. Look, here's what they want. They want the Trump voters to come out and vote for their Republican candidates, Perdue and Loeffler, keep them in power, do whatever, vote for them. But they don't want to do they want to have anything to do with Trump. And so they pull out the violence card. When has there ever been any violence from any Trump supporter anywhere? I mean, it's so asinine. Nothing to see here, go home. Look, this is another weasel. Part of the problem with the Republican leadership in Georgia, it's like weasels are us, all of them. And so people are just, they're done. I tell you the other thing. One caller, Todd from Cartersville, or I think Melody, called in yesterday and he nailed it. He said, you know what? Since Trump, you can't give me any more weasel words, you politicians. You can't tell me about the system or how hard it is or how many emails you get or how tough it is to institute change. Trump got in there. He said he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He fought everybody. He got change. He got the job done. So the game's changed. People want that kind of action because they figure if Trump can do it, my state senator can do it. My city councilman can do it. And I'm not going to sit there and take these people mealy-mouthing and whining their way out of stuff, which basically what Gabe Sterling did. Hey, Trump got beat. Go home. Go away. Oh, by the way, we're not going to do a forensic analysis on the machines, even though I had a state senator today who's in the software cyber business saying probably they did get manipulated. Don't want to do that. We also don't want to check any of the signatures on the absentee ballots, on the envelopes. The question is, why don't you want a forensic analysis of the machines? Why do you want clean? Why don't you want to match the signatures to the envelopes? What do you have to hide? Why don't you just do it? Right. They don't do it. You got to ask yourself, why? That's the problem. And until these Republicans understand that in leadership and fight for Trump and fight for a legitimate election, right now they're going to lose on January 5th. I'm telling you, if nothing changes, you're going to wake up on January 6th and Chuck Schumer's in charge. If they don't act now.
But, John, one of my problems is why are we expecting these guys to be leaders? I think this is the time that the grassroots steps up and bypasses them. We set up a petition out in front of every voting place so that we can recall these guys.
You're right.
In March, we decide that the deplorables are taking over the state of Georgia. We don't give a damn about our Republican leadership, our rhino leadership. And the people can take it back, just like we took back this country from the British. It's time to take back the state of Georgia from the crooks who are running it in both parties, in my mind.
Well, I tell you what, Jack Maxey, when this is said and done, the number of people you are going to see primaried in the next cycle in Georgia, based on what I've heard and seen, is off the charts. Kemp, Raffensperger, Duncan, but it goes beyond that. Representatives, state senators, whoever has not stood with the president, whoever has mealy-mouthed this, whoever has tried to say, nothing to see here, go home, everything is fine, they're going to all get beat. Because I've never seen anger and frustration like I've seen here in Georgia in the past 3 weeks. It's mind-boggling to me. And every day I think, well, it's going to get better. It gets worse. Look, there's a press conference today in Alpharetta, Georgia at 2 o'clock with Sidney Powell and Linwood. We're going to be covering that. You know, they're telling me they have massive evidence that goes beyond the pale that the election is going to get overturned and the people are going to jail. So we'll see what they have. If that happens, and these Republicans have been stonewalling that, all hell will break loose.
John Fredericks, thank you so much once again, John Fredericks Radio Network, for joining us. Make sure you download the app, go to the YouTube channel, John Fredericks Radio Network. Support that man. John, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. And Raheem, great taste in your tie. Beautiful tie you have on.
Thank you so much. What do you think of Jack's shirt?
I'm wearing an Italian tablecloth today. You misidentified my blue one as Italian. I was informed that that's a Jewish deli.
You know, this is. So we got to get the music over that one. John, thank you so much for joining us here today. By the way, this is a Turnbull and Assatai for those of you who know German Street. John is correct, by the way. Here's a question: is anybody in the live chat? Can you guess where this quote's from? Here's what John's talking about. How bad do you think it's going to be? Pretty goddamn bad. Probably all the other families will line up after us. That's all right. These things got to happen every 5 years or 10 years. Helps to get rid of the bad blood. Been 10 years since the last one. Where's that from? We'll answer that question in the next segment. We'll be right back.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
All right, welcome back to the War Room. I guess you all got it right. Maybe we don't need to play the clip. Maybe if we can play the clip, we'll play it. But I guess you all got it right. Obviously, in the last segment, The Godfather, Clemenza, and Michael Corleone talking about every 5-10 years, you're going to have a little bit of a bloodletting. And I mean that figuratively, Madeleine Peltz and Media Matters. This is about the primaries and what's going to take place in Georgia if Republicans don't get their act together there. The withdrawal of consent, the withdrawal of consent is one of the last things the public has when their legislators, the people that are supposed to represent them, no longer represent them. Greg Mann's looking like he's got something to say here.
Yeah, and John brought up the point about in the next election cycle, 2022, how there's going to be a lot of primaries in Georgia, and that's the feeling on the ground. And I know for a fact that's also percolating in Pennsylvania very strongly right now, that people are really showing interest in getting involved in electoral politics that have never been. People from the outside seeing what's going on, embracing their inner patriotism towards public service. So for the people that in the State House that have not signed up to the House Resolution 1024 that's currently in the State Government Committee that was filed the other day, those people that have not signed on as co-sponsors should be made aware that there are primaries that are going to pop up.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, great point. Here's the thing. Let's reset here for a moment. Right, you're going to keep getting the Politico articles come out. There's another one out this morning. Hey, Trump says see you in 2024. Now, he said we're trying for another 4 years right now, and that will not stop. That battle is not going to stop. You got martial law trending on Twitter right now. You got Lynn Wood, General Flynn, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, the whole team grinding every single day. No sleep, just grind. Stephen K. Bannon on special assignments today, every single day, working to secure the victory. Where's the victory? The victory is in the legal votes. The victory is, there is a loss if we allow the illegal votes to count. If we allow, you saw, and if you haven't seen, you have to check it out. The Amistad Project from yesterday. Listen to the drivers. He's got these massive gaylords full of ballots driving across state lines. Oh, I'm supposed to unload here. No, you got to go to the next one. Hold on, I'm told to unload here. No, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out later. Where do I get my slip? Don't worry about your slip. You're not getting your slip. This is what's been going on. And here's the thing. Greg's absolutely right. Greg, they want people to believe it's time to lay down and die. But the time now inspires people to join up, to sign up. It's on you. You got to run for local office, run for your state legislature, run for what. It's time for you to stand up. I want to bring in Jack Posobiec, One American News correspondent, joining us now, talking about people standing up. Jack Posobiec, of all people, Senator Ted Cruz launched his very own cruise missile last night. This letter, this statement that he released, talking about the emergency appeal filed at the Supreme Court. Tell us more.
Yeah, Raheem, thanks for having me on. And just very quickly, to explain all this, this is something that we've been talking about vis-a-vis the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and not just Sean Parnell's election, although it is his lawsuit that has now made it on its way to the Supreme Court, that as he has been fighting his fight, I think almost quietly at first, but it's getting louder and louder, and now you're starting to see Red State, Daniel Horowitz, Shipwreck Crew, all coming in, and now Ted Cruz as well, saying the exact same things that we've been saying day in, day out for what feels like months now about this specific case, about what went down. What people need to understand is that it's as simple as this. When you break the Constitution, the state constitution, the rules of the states, and the federal constitution, that is a systemic violation, period. You don't need to go any further than that. These were unlawful ballots because it was an unlawful process instituted by the governor, all right? And Ted Cruz, of all people, right, a sitting senator of Texas, one senator of Texas, weighing in on an issue in a Pennsylvania election, because Ted Cruz rightly points out, and by the way, Ted Cruz, no stranger to litigation. His legal credentials are impeccable. They're unquestionable. I mean, he's very well known for Supreme Court cases. It is because it is a federal issue of whether or not the Constitution matters. The Pennsylvania legislature and the Pennsylvania governor did not follow the Constitution. The process they instituted was illegal. It was unlawful. And there's a great point that's made by Shipwreck Crew over at Red State. It wasn't in the Cruz letter, but it was a great point. He said, actually, under the Pennsylvania process, the Constitution changed by a referendum of the people. So if you want to talk about disenfranchisement, right, that's always the response to all this, you disenfranchised the people of Pennsylvania by instituting a change to the Constitution without asking them first.
Right. Jack, we're up against the break here. I want to make sure that we're getting as much out of you. Squeeze the Jack Posobiec as much as possible for as much information as possible. What else is on your radar right now, and where can people follow your work?
Yeah, I mean, this is really the big thing right now is Pennsylvania. I'm saying it all along. Pennsylvania is the keystone. There's other issues there, but I think this one is going to reverberate across the nation because we've seen so many other times. You can find me working at One American News and catch me on Twitter at Jack Posobiec.
That's a great tee-up because we've got Sean Parnell on the next segment as well. Jack Posobiec, I know you're out and about, busy man this morning. Thank you for taking the time to join us via the phone today. Thanks once again to Jack Posobiec. All right, everybody, pay attention, listen up, because here's the thing. I was testing you all. Testing you all. And everyone in the live chat who says, Gaylords? What's wrong talking about Gaylords? Gaylords is the term used by the whistleblower yesterday during the Amistad press conference to talk about these big cardboard boxes that carry the ballots in them that was loaded into his truck, or lorry, as we say. So you haven't paid attention if you don't know what a Gaylord is in the context of the Amistad Project's press conference. So go back, get your electronic Brunzel, which is what I have.
He's not speaking in the context of British aristocracy.
Quite right. We'll be back after the break.